For Sunday, August 9th, you found the Georgia Gang. Topping our agenda this morning, besides politics, is DeKalb County, where Mike Bowers says it's rotten to the core. The county commission in DeKalb hands a huge gift to Arthur Blank and his soccer team. And Atlanta this weekend is the GOP capital of the United States. Some of the stories up for grabs on the Georgia Gang.
From the Fox 5 studios, the Georgia Gang starts now.
And we're glad you could be with us on this Sunday in August, where the topic really is all about politics the whole weekend, because Georgia's got about 10 presidential candidates on the Republican side visiting the Red State Gathering, and we'll get to all that in just a minute. But we'll start locally at the DeKalb County Courthouse in Decatur, where the former Attorney General of Georgia, Mike Bowers, handed a letter to the commission in which he said the county was rotten to the core. Something that I've suspected for some time, I might say. And back in the days when people complained that we talked about DeKalb County too much, I always thought we were headed in this direction. And I think the reply by Lee May, the interim CEO of DeKalb County, that Bowers' letter was full of salacious but vague innuendo.
And it
salacious.
was, apparently. I mean,
salacious is about sex stuff, isn't it?
No, it doesn't have to be about sex. You know that. Look, I mean, sometimes, and Phil will back me up here, but let's just say, folks will come to you and they'll want to pay for some good press. I have never heard of paying $455,000 for the worst headlines of the year.
But here's the problem,
It's
Jeff.
unbelievable.
But here's
very bad.
Good point. Well said. But here's the problem: they didn't pay him. Let's remember how this went down.
Now,
he is a lawyer. They will stroke the check.
Well, let's remember though that the commission 2 weeks ago, in its final budget, took out the money for Mike Bowers. They also took out some money for the district attorney who wanted to work on some public corruption cases. So.
But they have been paid from other funds, at the general funds of the county.
Well, I'm not sure about that. But anyway, look at what happened at the commission meeting on Tuesday. The commission was ready to cut the deal with Arthur Blank. It always begins with public comment. And there were a lot of people there who wanted to talk about the soccer deal with Arthur Blank and Atlanta United Football Club.
Right.
And the commission's first action that day was to cut off public comment. That's unheard of to me. I don't.
It's not unheard of. You saw what happened in Cobb County.
But it's not right. It's not right.
Well, yes. No, I would thoroughly
Jeff,
agree
you're
with
wrong.
that.
No, Jeff, you're wrong. In Cobb County, they allowed public comment, but they stacked the deck.
Right. Okay.
In this case, they didn't even allow
They
public
didn't even
comment.
allow public comment. I mean, we're talking about $12 million of the public's money. And for people not to be able to go in there and say what they think about it, to me, is unconscionable.
Well, let's go back to Mike Bowers, and then we'll do the soccer. So Mike Bowers was there wanting to give public comment. He wanted to read his letter to the commissioners. And they told him he couldn't, and he was escorted out. And so later in the day, he released the letter that he had sent to Lee May and the commission, in which he called the county rotten to the core. May's response was that the letter was full of salacious but vague innuendo. Now, May is right to a point. It was vague.
Yeah.
No names were named.
Right.
But
No departments.
he dribbled out, in the manner of a good journalist, a few juicy tidbits
Exactly.
about P-card purchases and all that kind of thing, Phil. And stuff we know. We just want to see some names attached to
Well,
it.
that's right. And you know, this was not a secret to Lee May and the other members of the commission. The deal was that they would do Mike Bowers would do a general overview. He's not the chief investigator, Richard Hyde is, and then Richard Hyde would be continuing to follow up. So this was not a surprise that he was going to do this so-called update on corruption. Now, I think that Lee May should have, and we can there's legitimate, honest disagreements. How far do you go? You do have to cap an investigation at some point. But I think it should continue a little bit more because they are uncovering things.
Not on my dime.
Okay.
Right.
No, I mean, you're in
Well, wait
Fulton
a
County.
minute.
Not
Wait a
on my
minute, wait a
dime.
minute.
It
No, I
shouldn't
will agree.
continue.
I think you would
If
agree. Let the feds-
$455,000.
Well, it's my dime and I
We're
want it
talking
spent.
about $100,000 a month.
I think you
over
agree with this.
$110,000 a month.
The feds need to step it up. State Attorney General.
Step it up during the
Sam
middle of an
Owens.
investigation. They don't have any responsibility responsibility to tell us what they're
Jeff,
up to
there's
or
new
what
things.
they're doing?
The one thing that this has done is it's uncovered some new things. And
That's
I know
right.
you're opposed to corruption.
It uncovered some old things, and I think
Yes.
that's why Lee May said, yes,
No.
it did, because back in June, Bowers went to Lee May, complained about or told him, reported to him about the P-card purchases, and he suspended the P-card purchases. He eliminated P-card purchases. And then it's in this thing as if it's new, and it's still ongoing, and it's not. And then the whole thing with the
You're missing
Bahamas
the point.
trip, I think that's why he said, Lee May said salacious but vague. But that doesn't get Lee May off the hook, okay? Because you never ask a question you don't know the answer to. And he did when he invited him in the first place.
But let me clarify what you just said, Jeff. There is new stuff. Bowers said that there is a major bribery scandal unfolding in one DeKalb department. The thing that bothered me in what Bowers reported was that county departments weren't cooperating with him. They weren't providing the information he needed to thoroughly investigate. In other words, there's a giant stonewall going on. So then to wrap this up, the question then became, the next day's exchange of letters, was when does he get the work done? He wants to deliver, Bowers wants to deliver his report October 6th. Lee May wants it August 28th or something, 26th. What do you think?
Well, I think that clearly there is a miscommunication or a misunderstanding, and I think Lee May is trying to stop the spending to cut off the activity by the end of this month. And he says that he told Bowers that he wanted to make the report available to the commission in October. And apparently Bowers thinks he has until October to complete the report.
I'm going to just tell you, this is some very expensive bad press.
Yes.
It's the worst. You know, I mean, if it was.
You thought it was a bad idea from
If it
Jump
didn't
Street.
cost a dime, I did think it was a bad idea from Jump Street. We've got lots of prosecutors. They are doing their jobs as far as we
I
know.
don't think we do. I don't think
You
Robert
don't think we
James
got
is
enough
doing
federal-
a thing. Robert James brought essentially a weak and almost bogus indictment of Burl Ellis. Corruption is rampant all over that county, and Robert James
I
hasn't done
cannot
a
disagree
thing.
with you, but we had the feds go after Elaine Bowers. As far as we know, the feds are
Well,
ongoing.
don't marry her
in
to
their
the wrong guy,
investigation.
Elaine Boyer.
Elaine Boyer.
Right.
Did I say Elaine Bowers? I'm so sorry. Oh,
That was a mistake.
That's a funny
apologies to
mistake.
all. It's a funny one. But yeah, I mean, the feds were doing their job, and I didn't see any reason why we
All right, let's talk about the
should have
soccer
done
deal.
this.
I don't like the soccer deal, okay? I like DeKalb getting a nice soccer facility. I think we got a pig in a poke. We got a building, we got a stadium that seats 3,500, and we got 3 soccer fields. That's great for the Atlanta United Football Club if you like practicing in the shadow of the jail and the helicopter sitting up on the roof. And you're also maybe on a landfill, as I understand it. But where's the soccer complex? Where's the big soccer complex that brings regional and national tournaments to Metro Atlanta?
It's not there.
It's not there.
It's not there, and that would have been a better deal if we'd had a bigger venue.
It's in Arthur Blank's other stadium.
Well, you know,
in downtown Atlanta.
I understand the Braves deal and Cobb County's willingness to invest. I understand the Falcon Stadium downtown, big tourist complex, and the city's willingness to invest.
Sure.
I don't get this one because I just don't think.
It was a close vote.
I
not
know,
only
4-3.
Well, not only that, but I mean, we didn't really get an opportunity to much talk about it.
Right.
You know, it was proposed.
It wasn't
we-
debated. I agree with you.
It was greased.
Yes.
It was greased.
Yeah.
Obviously. It was obviously greased, and they knew what they were going to do when they went in, and they knew the 4 votes were there. Yeah, you need something around there, but I'm not sure that
We do
this is
need
it.
well, we do need something there, but I don't know if it's on that side of the street. You might be better off on the other side of Memorial Drive.
That thought occurred to me too. That's never mind. Starting to say Indian country across the street. At least I like the protection of the public safety complex there. You know, when we come back, Kasim Reed's got some issues with firefighters in his city of Atlanta. We'll tell you about it.
Have a question or comment for the Georgia Gang? Visit their website at myfoxatlanta.com.
It's not as much fun as DeKalb County, but there is a little bit of a stir in the city of Atlanta where Mayor Kasim Reed is in a public spat with public safety employees. The firefighters union has put up a billboard, and I think there are more to come, that says Mayor Kasim Reed does not care about public safety.
Which is absurd.
And the mayor, true to his style, is speaking out loudly against it. And he's complaining that, and saying again that he's not going to talk about pay raises for groups that are suing the city over the pension reform.
And that is so wrong. I know you have a strong opinion on it, but these people do deserve a raise. We're having attrition. I understand, but they shouldn't be held hostage because they're suing. They have a right to sue.
No, I don't think that they're being held hostage because they're suing. And any notion that this mayor doesn't support public safety is absurd on its face. We've got 2,000 police officers for the first time in ever.
We're not filling the slots, Jeff. This is a fear we have.
We got a mayor who has been talking about recidivism at the local level for, unlike any mayor I've ever seen. I think that we have a mayor who's very concerned about public safety. We got drug stings over there in English Avenue, getting the heroin out of there. I think he's very concerned about public safety.
Well, it's obvious, though, that these unions are not going to take this lying down. I think it's very interesting. Now, let's turn to the state a little bit. The calendar of holidays and official days for state government workers was released the other day, and the names Confederate Memorial Day and Robert E. Lee's birthday were whited out, so to speak, and they were replaced by the term state holiday. I don't see anything particularly wrong with that.
Well, it's kind of silly when you have a blank holiday. I mean, what's all that? What's the holiday for? Why not just say you have a holiday if you're honoring the fallen dead?
Well, I would say, why have those holidays at all?
Well,
how many holidays do you take?
Well, then say that. But it's just to white something out is kind of silly, in my opinion.
That's an interesting turn of phrase.
That's why I used it. Because in this case, it wasn't blacked out. It was the white powers that be that took it out.
But I think it was good that they did. I mean, it's a sensitivity to the recent terrible things that happened in the name of the Confederate rebellion against the United States, the murders of the 9 people in the Charleston church.
There's not going to be much said about it. I think it's more of a humorous thing than anything else because the state workers still get the day off with pay.
Right.
Swell. We should note that dredging began this week at the Port of Savannah. We've talked about that so much. It's such an important topic. It is underway. Now the next step is to see if the federal budget includes I believe it's $100 million to keep it going. We've talked about Fayette County and their commission vacancy because of the death of Potacostan. The federal judge ruled that election to fill her seat will be by district, not at large.
Not at large.
But the larger issue of the legality of at-large elections remains before the court. And then we have President Obama, and this is not stuff we talk about a lot, but the EPA has proposed emission standards that will require Georgia to cut emissions by another 15% by 20.
Yes, I think it's 2025, I believe. But here's the point. Everyone that's worried about rising electricity rates and reliability ought to worry about this because it's too much. And the Georgia Chamber of Commerce had a statement just the other day pointing that out. And I know everything Obama does you always love, but let's be objective. There's a lot of Democrats.
It has nothing to do with Obama. It has to do with whether or not we protect our environment.
It has to do,
and whether or not we look like China.
Let me
because
finish my
if it
point.
were up to you, we would.
Let me finish. That's absurd. Let me finish my point, though. It's another executive overreach by an out-of-control federal agency, the EPA. If Congress is going to do this, let Congress do it. If they're not, they shouldn't. So it's another Obama overreach.
Let me jump on 2 local political things before we go to the national political scene, and we'll do this rather quickly. The pastor of Ebenezer Baptist Church, the Reverend Raphael Warnock, is thinking about challenging Johnny Isakson for the U.S. Senate in 2016. Good luck to him.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, but the Democrats haven't been able to find anyone.
But
so.
I
don't think that it's a matter of finding anyone or not. I mean, here's a young person with statewide name recognition, a lot of interest. He has the intelligence, he's got the talent, and I think that he can make a credible run. More importantly, can he win? Maybe not this cycle, but possibly the next. He is a young guy, but more importantly, he gets to bring up some issues that we need before the American.
He's going to bring up a bunch of issues, Jeff, that have been universally rejected by Georgians.
Right, like expanding Medicaid for low-income folks who can't afford it and bringing $30 billion that we sent to Washington back to our state.
All rejected.
Those are very good issues, I think, for Reverend Warnock to bring to a U.S. Senate campaign.
If that's all they can come up with, the Democrats are really hurting to get a candidate.
I totally disagree, and I also think he can turn out the vote that would be the thing that
So
would
you
be.
want the black vote turned out. He's just being used as a vehicle
No,
for this?
he's not. He's representing the interests of the black community as well as the interests of progressive thinking people in the community.
How's that going to reach
And
out
that,
to?
and while some of the
Against the most popular politician in the state of Georgia, Johnny Isaacson.
So what do you
Really?
do? Give him a pass just because he's popular?
I
Mike
would.
Thurman ran against him, and they're friends.
All right, real quickly, special election. Yeah, that's right. They did. And look what he got.
What did he get? He got a statewide
42%,
race,
right? Wasn't that it?
How
In
many?
Thurman's case, 42%?
Well, 42% is not bad in a
right,
statewide
and
race.
that was 6 years ago, and the
Almost
demographics
a
of the
million
state have
votes.
changed.
All right,
and
in
attitudes have
Brookhaven, mostly, Sun, Sandy Springs, and Chambly, special election for the State House this Tuesday. It's become a full partisan affair. It's a nonpartisan special election, but Max Davis is campaigning as a Republican, and he's had the backing this past week of Governor Deal, came to Brookhaven for him. Taylor Bennett is running as a garden variety Democrat, all those losing issues in the rest of the state. And Kasim Reed attended a fundraiser for Taylor Bennett. So it's just Republican, Democrat.
Well, the key here, and I'm Fulton County, and the key is control of the Fulton County
That's right.
legislative
Right.
delegation. This is the vote that will do it. And as someone who does not want my taxes and my assessments to keep going up, and we're trying to reform it against our dysfunctional government, we don't need this liberal Taylor Bennett
and
to be
that's
elected.
certainly a mischaracterization of what's been going on in
Oh,
Fulton
listen,
County.
if you've followed Fulton County, even Democrats realize it's been
they
dysfunctional
only
and they've
raised
had
taxes
tax.
once in the last 20 years.
Go back and
Come
Google
on.
Fulton County and tax increases and dysfunctional government. That's why we had Sandy Springs. Did you ever hear about that? We got away from it.
Didn't you just have a tax cut?
11%.
Yes.
But there was
Yes,
a 17% increase the year before.
Yes.
Which is
First
what the
time in
delegation
We're
23
trying to
years.
wipe out that increase.
That's right. All right, we got to get out. When we come back, the first Republican debate and the Red State Gathering here in Atlanta, they're everywhere. Stay with us.
Have a question or comment for the Georgia Gang? Visit their website at myfoxatlanta.com.
This side of the table had a big night Thursday night. I'm not so sure the other side did, but
Yeah,
we
it
were
was
able to
great.
watch the Republican debate from Cleveland. And to set the stage for you, before we get into that debate, let's talk about some polling recently for Fox 5 that showed, astonishingly to me, Phil, that Donald Trump leads Georgia with about 30% of the very fractured Republican vote.
Well, that's right. Our Fox 5 political analyst, Matt Towery, the pollster, and his son, Matt Jr., did the poll. It was done on August 3rd. You're right. Trump is tapping into something. I know we'll talk about that. 30% in the state. These are registered likely Republican voters. I think that ought to be said
Yes.
first. And Jeb Bush came in with 17%. Ben Carson, 10%. Mike Huckabee, who won the primary in 2008, here 7%. Cruz 6%. Walker 5%, and then on down. So it's going to be, of course, a very fluid situation. But
Do you think it changed after Thursday night?
you know, I think
do.
somewhat, because when we all saw Donald Trump raise his hand and say he wouldn't necessarily support the Republican nominee, that is not going over well. I think Trump is still going to be strong.
Oh, I think just the
But
opposite.
I think he'll start
that,
fading.
I think that he had such a magnificent performance that instead of 30%, he's probably up to 40 or 50.
Well, as someone else said, every pundit who has tried to predict and analyze Trump has been wrong about the impact and the effect of what he says and does. So,
Well,
it'll
he
be
was right
interesting to
about
see.
one thing, though, and that is that illegal immigration would never have been an issue if he hadn't brought it to the fore, so he did a great service to the
Oh,
country.
he was responsible for that.
He was.
He did.
Donald Trump.
Well, the others hadn't been talking about it, and Donald Trump talked about it in no uncertain terms.
Yeah, but
And,
it would have been asked in the debate. So I don't think he gets credit for that.
Well, in my takeaway from Thursday night, first of all, I'm surprised at Trump's. At first blush, I'm surprised at Trump's success in the polls, but there is tremendous anger after these awful 7 years of the worst president in the last 100 years.
Oh, my
okay?
God, the best president in the last 100 years.
And so it's
The president who's
understandable.
given us some
I
health
think,
care and other things that
And
that a dozen
rescued
other
us from an
presidents have
abysmal
tried and failed to
recession.
do.
and good luck paying for it. A president who just made a deal on Iran that is worse than Neville Chamberlain at Munich.
I know that you all
But
are really
anyway,
cozy
let's go
enough
back
to
to the
those
Republicans.
Well,
Ayatollahs.
no, I'm just going to say this. You've got a lot of your Democrat friends like Chuck Schumer, who you usually really love. They have said this is a terrible deal with Iran, and I tell you, that's going to mark him down as one of our worst presidents.
Yeah, it is.
So.
And
I don't think so.
So I think Trump Thursday night, I think he'll start to slip back near the pack. That's my prediction.
Well, he
and I think
certainly showed
if you
himself to
go
be-
to sort of fill overall winners and losers on the Republican side,
Oh, my goodness.
I think Rand Paul doesn't have much reason for being there in that top 10 anymore.
I agree with you. Here's what my takeaway. I'm interested in what everybody says. I thought that Cruz was a winner. I thought Huckabee.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
Please.
No, I
Wow,
know
that's
you don't.
amazing.
I know you don't.
You guys don't even say anything because you don't know anything.
We don't know anything.
Well, can I at
we
least
can't
finish?
judge a
Can I-
candidate after doing this for decades.
Can I at least finish a sentence?
We can't
Can
say
I-
who we think is a decent candidate.
You think Bernie Sanders is a decent
Rubio
candidate?
did a great
You know,
job in that.
you're not going to
debate.
like
Rubio
any of
did
these
do a good
people. I'm going to
job.
just
Right?
finish my sentence if I could.
You finished it.
Gee, thank you.
You're welcome.
I thought that Huckabee, Cruz, and Christie did very well, and I thought Paul didn't do well. Bush was a little.
Which was sort
He
of
was
down the
tentative.
middle.
He was tentative
That's
and
a
he
good
was
word.
nervous.
Yes.
But I don't think that that's going to be the way he shows up in every debate.
And
I think that
Alexis,
he's going to do better as these things progress.
I'm with you, Alexis. I thought Governor John Kasich of Ohio was outstanding.
I thought so too. I thought
Not just
he
because he was playing on the home court, but he
But
was
I thought he was
outstanding.
the star of the debate. I thought he won it, clearly. I mean, he was the most impressive, the most thoughtful, and the most political. I mean, he was so smooth with
But
Trump.
I mean, let's face it, Trump
We talked
stole
about his record.
Trump stole the show. And
Yes, he did.
Oh, gee, I disagree.
I think he stole the show in that debate, and everybody's beating up on Trump because they know that right now he's in the lead.
No, I think that's a good analysis, and I think that Marco Rubio had a great line, though, that we've got plenty of great candidates to choose from, and the other party doesn't.
Well, that's
that's true.
Well, that's to be seen and
And
determined too.
there are some
But
thoughtful,
but
Republicans
one
in
other
there.
thing
I don't think that Trump and Cruz are among them, but I do think that there are some thoughtful.
Right.
Well, and let's
conservatives
say
in that
this: the
bunch.
Democrats have set a debate schedule, and really, do you want to watch Hillary Clinton? Do you want to watch Bernie Sanders? Do you want to watch Martin O'Malley? Hillary Clinton this week, it was learned, is the subject of a criminal probe by the FBI
Wow.
over her emails.
I
That
think-
is serious
well,
stuff.
I mean, you
I
know,
think
you're
if, her,
right.
get out.
To
if
pick-
her poll numbers continue to crater, the Democrats, you guys are going to have to really think about
Let me
this.
tell
we
you,
gotta
we
get out.
got the moral minority Republican parties, in favor of what is it, a casino operator?
We gotta get
I
out.
think it's great.
All right, when we come back, the more winners and losers as if we hadn't had enough. Stay with us.
Time now for the week's winners and losers.
Remember us on Facebook as well, and remember to check the Fox 5 Facebook page. And we'll begin the winners and losers with you, Jeffrey.
Well, thank you, Dick. The loser has got to be, DeKalb County. I mean, these were the worst headlines imaginable. And to pay $500,000, and I guess the clock is still running for them, is pretty amazing. And so, just terrible. Terrible. We didn't think it could get any worse than it did. But the winner I want to make, the Atlanta Housing Authority. They're a finalist for the Choice Neighborhood Award. It is a $30 million grant from Department of Housing and Urban Development, and a real opportunity to develop the West Side around the stadium. And there are a lot of things going on there, West Side Future Fund and other initiatives, but that $30 million could be quite a catalyst.
All right, Phil?
Well, I think the winner has to be this Red State gathering that we've been talking about here in Atlanta, and you called it's the capital of the GOP. It's quite a boon for Georgia, and Eric Erickson, the organizer, has to be a winner for doing this. And I think that our friend who often subs for Jeff, Theron Johnson, has just moved to a new consulting job over at Greenberg Traurig. So we make him a winner and wish him well. I've got a winner too, and that is the U.S. History APS course has been changed. It's now going to emphasize free enterprise.
How about that?
And traditional history, the founding fathers, Thomas Jefferson, who you guys don't like anymore. So that's a winner.
Go ahead,
Okay,
Alexis.
and they're not going to emphasize the War of Northern Aggression, right? Okay, which is also known as the Civil War, right? And the Confederate rebellion against the United States of America, which would be my loser. But I just wanted to of the debates that we saw, I just want to again, lift up John Kasich. Is that his name? Is that how you say
Yeah.
it? Kasich, of the former governor of Ohio. I think he was outstanding and clearly was the most intelligent and thoughtful participant. And the losers would be Cruz, Rubio, and Carly Fiorina.
I thought she was outstanding.
I thought she was horrible,
I
and she
thought
was
the
so
Rubio did a
hateful.
good
Outstanding.
job.
All right.
Yeah, I didn't like Rubio.
All right. For my part,
How did he pay off those $100,000 in student loans in 4 years?
okay. For my part, we lost a good one in the world of journalism this past week. Frank Hyland, the legendary
yes.
sports writer for the Atlanta Journal, known for especially for his coverage of the Atlanta Falcons and Norm Van Brocklin, died, and his wake will be today. He was little known, though, for something very special. He was fluent in Russian and international affairs. And Jeff, you'll recall when he was the excellent national news editor for the Journal, too.
Absolutely.
And he was
Very
one of my
good.
TV stars at the video edition of the Journal-Constitution. He came like he was a brilliant.
All right, we got to
Sports
get out.
Thursday.
We'll see you next week on the Georgia Gang.
The opinions expressed in this broadcast are those of the panelists appearing in this program.